Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for watching. Today's video was actually an idea that I got from a viewer in the comments the other day, and he reminded me that because guns and ammo are so expensive and hard to find right now, a lot of people are only shooting the cheapest stuff they can find. And those of you that watch the channel know that I primarily shoot the cheapest ammo I can find anyway, which 90% of the time that is the Russian steel-cased ammo. And to be honest, for me it's worked really well. But I also shoot Glocks and really reliable guns most of the time, and as a viewer so eloquently put it, a Glock will cycle a turd if you put one in it. So it's not a really good test for that super cheap ammo because a lot of the guns that I shoot are just super reliable. So today we're gonna put this to the test and see what happens when you shoot the cheapest ammo and the cheapest guns. So for our ammo, we have the one you're all expecting, I'm sure, just regular old Tula 9mm 115 grain steel cased non-corrosive. This is probably the most common steel-cased ammo in the world. And then for our guns, we have a few different ones out here. So first up, we have, of course, the Hi-Point C9 9mm pistol for a whopping 115 bucks. You can get one of these guns. The problem is they're actually very reliable, but no one really gets these for serious use. At least most people don't. They're kind of the laughing stock of the gun community. And although they work really well, they're just kind of legendary for being the cheapest gun in the world. So we had to test it out of this one. Our second gun on the table is one that a lot more people are buying and trusting for self-defense. And the guy that left the comment specifically mentioned this brand. So this is the Taurus G2S 9mm, and this is, I believe, a $200 pistol, which if you compare that to the Hi-Point, not much more money, and in my opinion, a much better gun. And then the one that I'm the most excited for is this bad boy. This is the Hi-Point 995 9mm carbine. So all three super cheap guns, three of the cheapest guns you can buy actually, but they all have a pretty good reputation. So they're not like so poorly made that it's gonna be an unfair test on the ammo. So I'm excited to see how this goes. All right, so what we're gonna do is shoot each of these guns with some regular brass cased ammo first, and then we'll switch over to the cheap steel case stuff and just see what the differences are. So we're gonna start with the Hi-Point carbine. I actually just bought a brand new magazine for this gun. You can see we got some Winchester white box in there. But the last time that I had this gun out, it was having problems, and I think it was the magazine causing the malfunction. So I guess we'll find out when I shoot this new one, but believe it or not, I actually love this gun. I don't know why, it's just really fun to shoot. It's got a good feel to it. I know they're cheap and, you know, considered kind of crappy, but I'm a big fan of the Hi-Point carbine. So let's see if it works. I got a slow-mo camera off to the side here so we can look at the ejection pattern and the recoil and stuff like that. So, all right. Hopefully this magazine works. Yes. Ran through it, no problem. I'm just happy that the Hi-Point carbine is actually working. I was hoping it was the magazine causing the problem, and it looks like it was. One thing I will say is I didn't notice this the last time I shot this gun, but I'm left-handed, or I shoot long guns left-handed, I should say. And there's hot gunpowder hitting me in the face. Like, it felt like it was actually burning my face. I didn't notice that the last time I shot it, so I don't know what that's about, but at least it's working. All right, next up we have the Hi-Point C9. I probably won't shoot this one as much today because, spoiler alert, I've shot hundreds and hundreds of rounds of steel-cased ammo through this gun, and it feeds pretty much everything. It's a very reliable handgun. So you can see once again, we got some brass-cased Winchester white box. Let's shoot it. My targets are pretty far away for a handgun, so. All right. And the pistol seems to be working just fine as well. All right, next up we have the Taurus G2S 9mm, and the viewer that gave me this video idea specifically mentioned Taurus. So I think a lot of people are starting to get into these cheap Tauruses. Once again, we have some brass cased Winchester white box, and I'm curious to see how this one does because this gun was like 200 bucks, so not much more than a Hi-Point, and in my opinion, it's a much better gun. So should feed the brass cased ammo just fine. Let's see. Only a 7-round magazine, but it did work just fine. So really quick before we get started, I'll just quickly go over with you guys what the differences are between regular like brass cased target ammo, which is still usually pretty affordable, and then the really cheap like Russian steel cased Tula and Wolf that we have out here today. And I'll start off by saying right now, no ammo is cheap ammo. It's all pretty expensive, which is probably why a lot more people are buying and shooting the Wolf and the Tula and stuff like that. So typically when you hear people mention steel cased ammo, what they're referring to is a bullet that looks like this. So you can see that gray steel shell casing and then that copper colored bullet. And if you compare that to a brass cased round, you can see that they obviously look quite a bit different. And of course, the steel shell casing is a major reason why this ammo is so much cheaper. Now, if steel cased ammo was just a lot less expensive and equal in quality, obviously everyone would shoot it. But as I'm sure you know, a lot of people don't like shooting steel cased ammo, and there's a number of reasons for that. Number one is reloading. So if you reload, steel cased ammo with the Burdan primers, I believe, are not reloadable, and brass cased ammo is. So guys that reload obviously will buy brass cased ammo so they can reload those empty shell casings when they're done. Another big reason, and this is probably the most common, is the reputation that it has for reliability. So there's a number of reasons and theories out there why steel cased ammo is more prone to malfunctions. Personally, I haven't seen a ton of malfunctions with steel, but like I said, I shoot typically higher quality guns that can cycle pretty much anything, but there are definitely guns out there that will run brass but not steel. So the first reason that steel cased ammo can be less reliable is because they typically have some kind of a lacquer coating. I've even seen ones with like a polymer coating around the shell casing. I don't see the polymer anymore. It's usually just all lacquer coated. Apparently that can heat up inside the chamber of your gun, and if you let it sit for a couple minutes after shooting a few magazines, it can heat up and kind of melt that coating and cause it to stick in your chamber. I've never seen that, but I know a lot of people that say they have. Another way that steel can cause stuck shell casings is because the way that the metal flexes. So when you fire a round, obviously it's a giant explosion and the metal expands and contracts before it extracts and ejects. And brass is apparently a lot more flexible and does that process a lot more smoothly, whereas steel does not expand like brass does, so it can either cause carbon to build up around the chamber because it's not sealing as tight as brass does in the chamber when you fire that round, or it doesn't contract back down the same way, and then the extractor will not be able to pull that round out. I've heard both theories. I've definitely seen proof of that, but again, it's one that I haven't seen a lot personally. I will say the only malfunction that I've ever had in a Glock pistol was with steel cased Tula, and it was a failure to eject. So I don't know, it could be the reason why. But another problem with steel cased ammo, and this one is absolutely a fact, is that it's typically underpowered. I don't know if that's because of the way the metal flexes or if it's just a byproduct of the super cheap ammo. But I didn't notice it as much until actually just a couple months ago. I brought out my AR-15 and I was shooting like Winchester white box, just regular 55 grain target ammo, and 223 Wolf, I believe. So steel cased Russian 223, and the difference was mind-blowing. It sounded like a different caliber. One of them was denting my target and the other one wasn't even scratching the surface. The brass was putting out giant fireballs and the steel wasn't doing that at all. The brass also recoiled quite a bit more. So that's the biggest difference I've ever seen from brass to steel, but it was definitely obvious and something that I'd never really noticed before. Now with pistols, it's there. Like, you do notice a little bit of a recoil difference. It just feels a little bit less powerful, and the ejection of the shells is a little bit weaker and stuff like that. But nothing like what I noticed with the 223. So while we're on that topic, I haven't seen as many malfunctions with the handgun ammo as I have with the AR-15 ammo. AKs love steel. They're kind of made for that. The cone shape of the shell casing with the tolerances of the AK and just the way that gun's built, it loves steel cased ammo, but AR-15s seem to be the one that are the most finicky, at least from what I've seen. And the last thing I'll touch on really quickly is the country of origin and the quality control. So obviously if you're manufacturing tons of ammo for a really low price, the quality control is not going to be as good as it would be on more expensive ammo. So, you know, gunpowder issues, primer issues. I've even seen bullets that are not sealed at all that are like falling down into the shell casing. While those problems are not common, they are more likely to happen with the cheap Russian steel cased ammo. So let's shoot it. All right, now it's time for the moment of truth. We got some steel-cased Tula 9mm in all of these guns, and again, just pay attention to the ejection pattern of the shell casings and the recoil. You probably won't see a difference in recoil. I usually feel one. Steel-cased ammo definitely is underpowered, but cameras don't typically pick up on that. So we got our B camera over here for the ejection pattern. Let's see. All right. Definitely not as many hot sparks of gunpowder in my face like with the brass cased ammo, so I assume that's because they're not as hot, but cycle through them just fine. Next up, we got the high point pistol, also loaded with the same ammo. Like I said, I've shot this gun a million times with steel cased ammo and it usually works, so this will probably be the one time it malfunctions, but let's see. Yep, ran just fine. And the star of the show, the Taurus G2S 9mm. Trigger in this gun is really weird. It's like a single action trigger, which is interesting. Also ran just fine. The capacity kind of throws me off with the Taurus. 7 rounds just doesn't feel like enough. All right, so we'll get a couple different camera angles and just burn through a few rounds in each of these guns. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to expose some of the problems that might come from shooting steel, like the prolonged use of it and how it, you know, might jam up the chamber and cause stuck shell casings and stuff like that. I would assume that most of you aren't gonna be shooting 1,000 rounds of steel without being able to clean the gun. I mean, if you're in combat with steel cased ammo, then maybe. But other than that, it seems like it's working just fine, so. All right. Got her swinging. And once again, went through it just fine. What sucks is having to reload this magazine every time. Let's do a rapid fire mag dump. See if it makes it through. I tell you what, I could do this all day long. This gun is a ton of fun to shoot, but unfortunately, I don't have enough 9mm to do this too much longer, so we'll do a couple more magazines through this one. Man, it's running really good. I don't think we're gonna get any malfunctions out of this one. I think we get the point. All right, let's do a couple more mags out of the Taurus. This one seems to be running just fine too, so I'm not expecting any problems, but you never know. That AR-550 plate, I don't know if you guys can hear it. Usually you can't. It doesn't ring like the other ones, but I wasn't missing the target, I swear. All right, well, as much fun as I'm having, I don't want this video to get too repetitive, so I got like 12 more rounds left that we're gonna put through the Taurus, and then I'll probably take these bad boys up and clean them. So unless something catastrophic happens, I think it's safe to say that this cheap ammo is running just fine in these cheap guns. All right, this is our last 6 rounds for the Taurus, and I guess I'll rapid fire this one just to push the reliability test a little bit. All right. No problem. Well, everybody, on that note, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up right here. I hope you all enjoyed it. Once again, I wanna thank the viewer for giving me this idea down in the comments the other day. I kinda knew what to expect coming out here, at least in my experience. I've never really had a problem running steel-cased ammo through these kind of guns. Now, like I said, there's a bunch of tests that we weren't able to do today, like 1,000 round, 2,000 round tests, really heating the guns up and trying to get stuck shell casings or get the guns really dirty and seeing if we get stuck shell casings and stuff like that. But for the most part, steel cased ammo does run pretty much perfectly for me. Now, like I said, AR-15s are the guns in my experience that are the most prone to, malfunctions with steel cased ammo. Good ARs will typically run it. I have seen ARs that have had problems with steel in the past, and as Brandon Herrera likes to say, if it won't run steel, it doesn't deserve brass, and I kind of agree with that. I shoot 95% steel cased ammo, and if a gun won't run it, it's kind of a gun that I really don't want. So, hope you all enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, please let me know down in the comments, and as always, hit that like button for me, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.